The meeting room on the 42nd floor overlooked all of Manhattan. 3 men in suits watched as Marcus Chen wiped the conference table with precise movements. He kept his eyes down, focused on his work, but felt the weight of their gazes upon him. The oldest of the 3, Gerald Rothschild, pointed at him with a condescending smile that Marcus knew all too well. "Look at this," Gerald said to the other executives. "I bet he doesn't even know how much this watch I'm wearing costs." "Probably. His entire year's salary." The others laughed. Marcus continued cleaning, pretending not to hear. He needed that job. He had bills to pay, a family depending on him. Pride was a luxury he couldn't afford. When he finished, he left the room without looking back, carrying with him only the familiar burning of humiliation in his chest. 3 blocks away, at Presbyterian Hospital, Jessica Morrison was having her first official day as a registered nurse. She had dreamed of this moment for years, working 2 jobs to pay for nursing school, studying late into the night while caring for her ailing mother. Now, finally, she was there, wearing the light blue uniform that represented everything she had fought for. "You'll be working in the cardiology department," the supervisor said, leading Jessica through the busy hallways. "It's one of the most demanding floors. We have many high-profile patients here. Some can be difficult." Jessica nodded confidently. She had dealt with all kinds of situations during her internships. Difficult patients didn't scare her. What she didn't know was that her definition of difficult was about to be completely reshaped. Gerald Rothschild was 62 years old and firmly believed that his money could buy anything, including special treatment. When he felt the first pains in his chest during a business meeting, his first instinct was to ignore them. Men like him had no time for weaknesses, but when the pain intensified and his left arm went numb, even his stubbornness had to give way to reality. The ambulance took him to Presbyterian. Within hours, he was in a private suite on the cardiology floor, connected to monitors, with a team of doctors explaining that he had suffered a moderate heart attack. He would need to stay in the hospital for at least a week, follow a strict medication regimen, and make significant lifestyle changes. "This is ridiculous," Gerald protested, his voice still strong despite the pallor in his face. "I have business to attend to. I can't just lie here for a week." The cardiologist, Dr. Stevens, a 50-year-old man with gray hair, sighed. He had treated many powerful executives before. "Mr. Rothschild, your heart almost stopped. If you don't follow the recommendations, the next attack could be fatal. Money can't buy a new heart." Gerald dismissed him with an irritated gesture. When the doctors left, he immediately picked up the phone and started making calls. His assistant was supposed to bring documents for him to sign. Meetings could be held via video conference from his room. He wasn't going to let a minor medical inconvenience interfere with his business. It was at that moment that Jessica entered the room for her first round of checkups. She smiled professionally, though her heart was racing with first-day jitters. "Good afternoon, Mr. Rothschild. I'm Jessica Morrison, your nurse. I need to check your vital signs." Gerald barely glanced at her, continuing his phone conversation. Jessica waited patiently, but after 5 minutes, it became clear that he had no intention of pausing the call. She cautiously approached, trying to access the monitoring equipment, but he brushed her away with his hand as if swatting a fly. "Mr. Rothschild," Jessica said firmly, "I need to check your blood pressure and your IV medication." He covered the phone for a moment. "You can come back later. I'm busy. This can't wait. Your heart readings showed some irregularities in the last hour. I need to evaluate now." Something in Jessica's tone caught him off guard. Most people he met were easily intimidated, especially someone so young and clearly new to the job. But this nurse looked him in the eye without fear, her posture conveying a quiet authority that belied her apparent inexperience. "Do you know who I am?" he asked, finally hanging up the phone. "Yes, you are Gerald Rothschild, a heart patient who suffered a myocardial infarction 8 hours ago and is currently at risk of complications if medical protocol is not followed." He blinked, surprised by the direct answer. Most of the hospital staff treated him with exaggerated deference. "I donate millions to this hospital every year." "And that's admirable," Jessica replied, preparing the blood pressure cuff. "But here in this room, you're my patient. Your money doesn't change the fact that your heart is damaged and needs care. Now please be still while I take the measurements." For the first time in decades, Gerald Rothschild was speechless. He watched her work, noting the efficiency of her movements, the way she checked every detail with meticulous attention. When she finished, He expected her to leave quickly, but instead, Jessica pulled up a chair and sat down beside the bed. "Mr. Rothschild, I need to be honest with you. I've read your medical records. You have a history of uncontrolled hypertension, high cholesterol, and chronic stress. Your doctors have been warning you about this for years, but you ignored them. This heart attack was a warning. If you don't make real changes, the next one could kill you. The doctors already told me that," he replied defensively. "But you're not listening. I see this all the time, especially with powerful men like you. You think you're invincible, that the rules don't apply to you. But biology doesn't care how much money you have or how many companies you own. Your body is failing, and if you don't change, you'll leave behind a fortune you won't be able to enjoy and a family that will be without you." Gerald stared at her. No one had spoken to him like that since he became rich. It was both irritating and strangely refreshing. "You're very bold for someone on their first day of work." Jessica smiled slightly. "I became a nurse to save lives, not to flatter egos. If it costs me my job, so be it. But as long as you're my patient, I'll do everything I can to keep you alive, even if it means saying things you don't want to hear." Something shifted in that moment. Gerald couldn't explain it, but he felt a crack in his carefully constructed armor. This young nurse, who probably earned in a year what he spent on a single dinner, possessed something his money could never buy: genuine courage, combined with real compassion. In the following days, a pattern was established. Jessica cared for Gerald with professional efficiency, but also with a frankness he had never experienced. When he tried to work excessively from his bed, she turned off his laptop. When he complained about the unsalted hospital food, she patiently explained how the sodium was literally killing him. When he grew impatient with the restrictions, she reminded him of the far worse alternatives. But it wasn't just confrontation. Jessica also talked to him. Really talked. She asked about his life beyond business, about his family, his interests. Gerald found himself sharing things he had never told anyone, about the father who had relentlessly pressured him to succeed, about the relationships he had sacrificed in pursuit of wealth, about the emptiness he felt despite all his power. "You know what I realized?" Jessica said one night, checking her IV. "You've built an impressive empire. You employ thousands of people, influence markets, make things happen with a phone call, but you have no idea how to take care of yourself. You've mastered the external world, but completely neglected the internal one." "Nurse's philosophy?" he asked, but without malice. "An observation from someone who has seen many patients like you. Powerful men who rise to the top only to realize they forgot to build a life worth living. Do you have children, Mr. Rothschild?" 3. 2 sons. 1 daughter. When was the last time you had a real conversation with them? Not about business or money, but about their lives, their dreams." Gerald remained silent. The truth was, he barely knew his own children. They had grown up in expensive boarding schools while he built his fortune. Now adults, their relationships were strained, formal, transactional. "Exactly what I thought," Jessica said softly. "You still have time to fix this, but only if you choose to do things differently." On the 5th day of Gerald's hospitalization, something unexpected happened. Marcus Chen, the janitor who had cleaned the conference room on that fateful day, was working on the cardiology ward. He entered Gerald's room to empty the trash, moving silently as he always did, trying to be invisible. Gerald recognized him immediately. You work in my building." Marcus froze, his muscles tense. "Yes, sir. I clean your offices. Do you work here too?" "I have 3 jobs, sir. I need to support my family." Marcus kept his eyes downcast, expecting the familiar, scornful tone. But to his surprise, Gerald didn't laugh. Instead, he seemed genuinely interested. "3 jobs? That must be exhausting." "That's what I need to do," Marcus replied simply, still cautiously. Jessica entered the room at that moment, immediately noticing the tension. "Marcus, I heard you were working on this floor just now. How is your daughter? Has her cold gotten better?" Marcus's face lit up visibly. "Yes, Nurse Morrison. Thank you for asking. The medications you recommended helped a lot." Gerald watched this interaction with growing discomfort. Jessica knew the caretaker by name, asked about his family. She treated him with genuine respect and care. He remembered how he had laughed at Marcus, how he had treated him like furniture, invisible and unimportant. After Marcus left, Gerald remained quiet for a long time. Jessica watched him, seeing something stirring behind his eyes. "Did you know that man before?" she asked. I was cruel to him. I laughed at him in front of other executives. I treated him like he was nothing. And now? Now I realize he works 3 jobs to take care of his family, while I can't even have a decent conversation with mine. He has more integrity in his little finger than I have in my entire body. Jessica sat down. A person's greatness isn't measured by how much money they have, or how much power they wield. It's measured by how they treat those who can't do anything for them. Marcus Chen is a good man. He deserved your respect from the start. I can fix this, Gerald said suddenly, a strange urgency in his voice. I can give you a better job, raise your salary, help your family. You can, Jessica agreed. But don't do it because you're feeling guilty, or because you want to feel better about yourself. Do it because it's the right thing to do. And more importantly, change how you treat all the people who work for you, not just the ones you accidentally recognized. These words sank deep. Gerald began to truly observe the hospital around him. He noticed the exhausted expressions on the nurses' faces during double shifts. He saw how the janitors were ignored, how the technicians were rushed, how everyone was treated like cogs in a machine instead of people with complex lives and real struggles. On the 6th day, Gerald's daughter, Emily, came to visit him. She was 32 years old, a successful lawyer, but there was a distance in her eyes when she looked at her father. They said you had a heart attack, she said formally, as if she were reporting facts to a client. Emily, Gerald began, and then stopped. He didn't know what to say. Jessica had given him so much to think about, but connecting with his own children seemed impossible after decades of neglect. Jessica went inside to check Gerald's vital signs. She noticed the tension between father and daughter, the palpable discomfort. After finishing, she turned to Emily. Your mother said you just won a big case. You must have worked very hard on it. Emily seemed surprised that anyone knew, and even more so that they cared. Yes, it was 6 months of preparation. How did you know? Your father mentioned it. He talks about you often. Emily looked at Gerald in disbelief. You're talking about me? Gerald cleared his throat, an unusual emotion tightening his throat. Yes, I'm proud of you, Emily. I know I've never said it directly, but I am. You built your career on your own, without using my name or connections. That takes strength of character, which I admire. Tears welled up in Emily's eyes. She couldn't remember the last time her father had expressed pride in anything she did. All her life, she had chased his approval, only to be met with indifference or criticism about how she could do better. Why now? She whispered. Why are you saying this now? Because I almost died, Gerald said simply, and I realized I was wasting the only thing I can't buy back. Time. Time with you, with your siblings, with the people who truly matter. I was a terrible father, Emily. I chose money and power over you and your siblings repeatedly. I can't get those years back, but I'm asking for a chance to do things differently. From now on, Jessica quietly left the room, giving them privacy. She stood outside the door for a moment, listening to the muffled sounds of crying and the first genuine conversation between father and daughter. A smile touched her lips. This was because she had become a nurse, not just to treat sick bodies, but to help heal broken lives. On the 7th day, Dr. Stevens came in with news. Your heart is recovering well, Mr. Rothschild. You can go home tomorrow, but with strict conditions, daily. Medication, a low-sodium, low-fat diet, light exercise, stress reduction, and weekly follow-ups with me for the next 3 months. I agree with everything, Gerald said without hesitation. Dr. Stevens blinked in surprise. He had expected arguments, negotiations, resistance. You agree? Just like that? Just like that. My nurse convinced me that my life is worth more than my business. After the doctor left, Gerald asked Jessica to come in. I need to thank you, he said. You saved my life, and I'm not just talking about the heart attack. You made me see what really matters. I simply told the truth, Mr. Rothschild. You chose to hear it. Call me Gerald, please. And I want to do something for you. I heard you have student loans from nursing school. Let me pay them off. Jessica shook her head firmly. No, thank you. Why? I can easily... Because I didn't do my job for a reward. I took care of you because that's what nurses do. If you truly want to thank me, use your second. Chance wisely. Be a better father. Treat your employees with dignity. Use your power and wealth to make a real difference in people's lives, not just accumulate more. That would be the best thank you. Gerald nodded slowly. You're a remarkable person, Jessica Morrison. I'm just a nurse doing my job. But you, Gerald, you have resources that most people will never have. The question is, what are you going to do with them? That night, Gerald barely slept. His mind raced with possibilities, regrets, and hopes for change. For the first time in his adult life, he questioned the foundation upon which he had built his empire. Success measured only in dollars, and power suddenly seemed empty, a futile pursuit that had made him rich, but impoverished him in the ways that truly mattered. He thought about Marcus Chen, working 3 jobs, struggling to survive. How many other Marcuses were there in the world? Good people crushed by systems that favored those who already had too much. Gerald had been part of that system, had benefited from it, never questioning its justice or morality. In the morning, when Jessica came in for her final round of checkups before discharge, Gerald was sitting on the bed, his laptop open. "I'm making some changes," he announced. "Marcus Chen will be hired full-time as a facilities supervisor, with a decent salary and benefits. I'm establishing a fund for entry-level employees to access further education, and I'm personally apologizing to every person I treated with disrespect or cruelty." Jessica smiled. "That's a good start." "Just a start? What more should I do?" "Gerald, real change doesn't happen overnight. It's not about grand, dramatic gestures. It's about consistent daily choices. It's about treating the person who cleans your bathroom with the same respect you would give a CEO. It's about listening when someone speaks, even if they don't have power or status. It's about using your platform to uplift others, not just yourself. You should be a motivational speaker, not a nurse. Nurses also provide motivation, but we do it one person at a time, one heart at a time. When the time came for Gerald to leave the hospital, he did something unprecedented. He asked to meet with the entire cardiology team, nurses, technicians, janitors, everyone. In the hospital's conference room, he stood before them, visibly uncomfortable, but determined. "I want to thank you all," he began. "You saved my life, obviously, but you did more than that. You showed me what humanity should look like. I saw exhausted professionals working double shifts still find the energy to be kind. I saw people who earn a fraction of what I earn demonstrate more integrity and compassion than I have shown in my entire career. You put me to shame in the best possible way." He paused, his eyes meeting Jessica's at the back of the room. "I especially want to thank Nurse Morrison. She's new to the profession, but she's already better at it than most will be. In their entire lives. She wasn't afraid to tell me hard truths. She saw me not as a powerful rich man, but as a patient who needed healing, and she treated me accordingly. I hope this hospital recognizes the gem it has in her." Applause filled the room. Jessica blushed, uncomfortable with the attention. This wasn't about her. It never had been. It was about doing the right job, the right way, every day. After the meeting, as Gerald prepared to finally leave the hospital, Marcus Chen approached him shyly. "Mr. Rothschild, I heard what you're going to do for me and my family. I don't know how to thank you." Gerald extended his hand, and after a moment of surprise, Marcus shook it. "Don't thank me. Thank Nurse Morrison. She taught me that treating people decently isn't a favor. It's a basic obligation. I'm sorry for how I treated you before. It was unforgivable. I accept your apology," Marcus said softly. "We all deserve chances to grow and change." In the following months, remarkable changes took place. Gerald kept his promise, not only to increase Marcus's salary, but also to implement sweeping reforms across all his companies. Minimum wages were significantly raised, health benefits were expanded, education programs were established, and perhaps most importantly, the culture changed. Gerald made a point of getting to know employees at all levels, learning their names, asking about their lives, treating them as valuable people and not just resources. His fellow executives thought he had gone mad. "You're throwing money away," they complained. "Your profit margins are going to suffer." "Let them suffer," Gerald replied. "I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. Perhaps it's time to share some with the people who truly create the value." Interestingly, their companies didn't suffer. Happier, better-paid employees worked harder, stayed longer, and innovated more. Turnover dropped dramatically. Productivity increased. It turned out that treating people decently was not only morally right, but also good for business. Gerald also rebuilt relationships with his children. These were difficult and uncomfortable conversations at first. Decades of resentment and neglect didn't disappear easily, but he persisted, consistently showing up, truly listening, making amends where he could. Slowly, painfully, They began to become a real family. Jessica continued her work at the hospital, treating each patient with the same care and frankness she had shown. Gerald. She developed a reputation for being direct yet compassionate, for telling hard truths when necessary, but always with the patient's best interests in mind. Patients either adored her or feared her, often both simultaneously. One day, 6 months after Gerald's discharge, she was called into the nursing supervisor's office. "We have an unusual situation," the supervisor said. "A major hospital donor has created a scholarship for nurses who wish to further their education. He specifically requested that you be the first recipient. Are you interested in pursuing a master's degree?" Jessica knew immediately who the donor was. "I would appreciate the opportunity," she said, "but only if it's offered to others as well, not just to me. There are funds for 20 scholarships a year." He was very insistent on that. He said that nurses are the unsung heroes of the healthcare system and deserve investment. Tears welled in Jessica's eyes. Gerald had truly listened, truly changed. He was using his wealth to make a genuine difference, not for show, but because he had learned the value of compassion, coupled with action. That night, Jessica sent Gerald a brief email, just 2 words: "Thank you. Proud." His reply came minutes later. "You changed my life. I can never repay you adequately, but I will spend the rest of my days trying to be the man you saw potential in me to become. Thank you for not giving up on the arrogant old fool lying in that hospital bed. P.S. I had dinner with all 3 of my children last night. First time in years. Small steps." Jessica smiled through her tears. That was why she had become a nurse. Not for the grand medical miracles, though those were gratifying, but for those quiet moments when you helped someone see their own worth, when you guided someone back to their humanity, when you catalyzed changes that rippled outward, touching countless lives. Years later, when Gerald Rothschild passed away peacefully at the age of 83, surrounded by his children and grandchildren, his obituary listed not his business acquisitions or accumulated wealth, but the lives he had touched, the programs he had established, the people he had uplifted. It was noted that his transformation had begun after a heart attack that nearly killed him, when a courageous young nurse refused to let her money define her worth. Jessica, now a senior nurse and educator training the next generation of healthcare professionals, read the obituary with tears streaming down her face. She remembered that young, frightened first-day nurse who walked into the room of an arrogant millionaire and refused to bow to his wealth or power. She remembered telling him that she could fix this, fix his life, if only he chose to listen. And he had listened. That was the real miracle. Not that she had helped save his heart physically, but that somehow she had touched something deeper, awakening the humanity he had buried under decades of greed and arrogance. At the reception after the funeral, Gerald's eldest son approached her. "Nurse Morrison," he said formally, though his eyes were red from crying. "My father spoke of you often. He said you saved his life. I just took care of him as I would any patient," Jessica replied gently. "No, it was more than that. You saw who he could be, not who he was. You refused to accept his worst self. Because of that, we got our father back. We had 12 years with a man who truly loved us, knew us, and was there for us. You gave us that gift. Our family will be eternally grateful." As she drove home that night, Jessica reflected on her career, on the countless patients she had treated, the lives she had touched. Some remembered her, others didn't. Some changed, others remained stuck in their ways. But every person who passed through her hands received the same care, the same respect, the same refusal to let their circumstances define their worth. This was nursing in its truest essence, not just administering medication or monitoring vital signs, although those things were important, but seeing humanity in every person, recognizing dignity regardless of status, and refusing to accept less than what people were capable of becoming. The arrogant millionaire had laughed when that new nurse said she could fix him, but something unthinkable had happened. She actually did, and in doing so, she changed not just one life, but rippled outward, affecting hundreds, thousands, through the policies he implemented and the values he finally embraced. Jessica Morrison parked in front of the small apartment she shared with her mother, now elderly but healthy, thanks to consistent care. She was tired, as she always was after a long shift, but it was a good kind of tired, the kind that comes from doing meaningful work. Tomorrow she would return to the hospital. There would be new patients, new challenges, new opportunities to make a difference. Some would be kind, others difficult. Some would listen, others would resist. But she would treat each one with the same care, the same honesty, the same refusal to accept anything less than her best humanity. Because that's what nurses did. They healed bodies, yes, but they also healed spirits, reminded people of their worth, and sometimes, just sometimes, catalyzed transformations that changed lives forever. And in the end, it wasn't about recognition or gratitude or even success. It was simply about showing up, day after day, and doing the job the right way for the right reason. It was about being exactly who you were called to be, even when it was hard, especially when it was difficult. Jessica entered the house. Pishi hung up her lab coat and smiled. Tomorrow would be another day, another chance to make a difference. She could hardly wait.